Yeah, it's a smear campaign, but I'm not going to play that game with them. They can do it all they want. They're going to go back and try to find anything that I've ever said and try to get me on the defensive about it in order to distract away from the things that are important.
I was offered a full scholarship to West Point, got to meet General Westmoreland, go to Congressional Medal of Honor dinners, but decided really my pathway would be medicine.
Well, this dominated a lot of the day in political journalism. Dr. Ben Carson defending, and his campaign defending, what he wrote in his book about what he called getting a full scholarship. Of course, to West Point, you don't get scholarships, you get appointments. And the campaign kind of had a couple of statements today. They started out with the original statement this morning, saying Dr. Carson was the top ROTC student in the city of Detroit. In that role, he was invited to meet General Westmoreland. He believes it was at a banquet. He can't remember with specificity their brief conversation, but it centered around Dr. Carson's performance as ROTC city executive officer. He was introduced to folks from West Point by his ROTC supervisors. They told him they could help him get an appointment based on his grades and performance in ROTC. He considered it, but in the end did not seek admission. Then it developed, and later in the day, after a Politico story, the Politico story is an outright lie. Dr. Carson, as the leading ROTC student in Detroit, was told by his commanders that he could get an appointment to the academy. He never said he was admitted or even applied. The campaign never admitted to anything. This is what we have come to expect from Politico. So why the focus on these semantics? Well, let's talk about it all with the panel. Syndicated columnist George Will, David Cantonese, senior politics writer for the U.S. News and World Report, and Charles Hurt, political columnist for the Washington Times. Okay, Charlie, much to do about nothing?
Well, at the very least, it's he was imprecise about something. He did get something wrong in his book and in his statements. But I would actually argue that more than anything, it's sort of an editing mistake that should have been corrected back when he wrote the book, and they were trying to recreate something that had happened 45 years before. But whether or not this hurts him or not, I have to say, my goodness, could he have picked a better enemy to get into a fight with in this primary than the media? And of course, Politico of all, just because Politico very much is a sort of inside the beltway sort of media outlet, and getting into a fight with them, good. It's all good. It's all good for Ben Carson.
He told Bill O'Reilly, David, that he just was told that it would be very easy for him to get in, and he should have clarified that it wasn't a full scholarship. I mean, it was all over the place today.
It was amazing to see how it unraveled online within 5 hours. This guy was dead man walking when this Politico story hit, conservatives abandoning him, and then you saw the retractions. Politico had to change their story and their headline that said he fabricated the specific allegation. And what really the difference was is that he said he never applied to West Point, and he never said he applied. He said he was offered a scholarship informally in this meeting. But now conservatives are rallying to him, and to Charlie's point, now Carson, I think, has won this news cycle when 5 hours ago you thought he lost it and he might be at the end of his campaign.
Pretty remarkable. And just in context, 1969, a time when West Point was trying, George, to get more African-American men as a part of the U.S. Military Academy, and that's the context there. What about this as we see it develop through the day?
I think it can be imprecise speaking and foggy memory, neither of which is terribly culpable. But when your biography is your campaign, as his is more than any other, then you better get it right if you're saying, elect me president because of my life story. He speaks in such modulated, dulcet tones that we tend to sometimes miss some of the harsh things he's saying. He burst upon the scene at the 2013 prayer breakfast when he did something that really was inappropriate, I think. He lectured the president sitting next to him on the defects of Obamacare. In 1992, and this is going to be an issue before long, he changed sides, essentially, on a referendum on abortion in Maryland between the pro-life, he went over to the pro-choice sides. He has said in this campaign he would use the education department to monitor the political biases on colleges and universities, which is dubious idea. He says we live in a Gestapo age, which we really don't. He said people taking the new advanced placement history test will be ready to sign up for ISIS, which I doubt. He said of Obamacare, it is in a way slavery. And before the 2014 elections, he said if the Republicans don't capture the Senate, there might not be 2016 elections. So he's got a rhetorical record that's going to get more scrutiny.
And look, the vetting is going to take place, and I think this was a warning shot to the Carson campaign. This might have been planted by an opposing campaign. We don't know.
Might have been.
But
Really?
Well, I mean,
you cover this thing.
But I mean, look. This I do believe the vetting is going to be tough for him, and I don't know if he's ready for it because of the way he speaks. But when you're a media outlet and you land a hit like that, it better be clean, because these days people already have vast distrust of the media, as you said, of DC outlets especially, and I saw it online. Unfurled today, the conservatives are now with Carson and they're against the media when this looked like, wow, he was fabricating it because they got a little part of it wrong. That's just enough to incite them.
Let's talk about the debate coming up. FBN debate on